I have to ask this one. What percentage of these reporters probably thought up until now that Obama was the greatest person ever to run for office? The problem the AP may be facing is the same problem that any business faces when dealing with a political machine. And that is, you're either on the inside or you're on the outside. Here's a good example of being on the inside. Major news media executives have family members that work at the White House. Want to know a couple or few? CBS News President David Rhodes' brother, Ben Rhodes, is President Obama's Deputy National Security Advisor. And according to ABC News, Ben Rhodes played an instrumental role in changing the Benghazi talking points. It also turns out that David Rhodes is considering dropping CBS News reporter Cheryl Atkinson because her reporting on Benghazi has been a little too hard for the administration. ABC News President Ben Sherwood's sister, Elizabeth Sherwood Randall, was a special advisor to the president and senior director for European affairs until recently being reassigned to Obama's national security team on April 8th. The White House's own press release announcing her move says, quote, she was one of the president's closest advisors for the past 4 years. Over at CNN, the network's Washington, D.C. Deputy Bureau Chief, Virginia Mosley, is married to Tom Nides, Hillary Clinton's former Deputy Secretary of State for Management and Resources. And according to the Washington Post's bio on Nides, he served as, quote, one of two alter egos to Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton. Now, we can't forget about MSNBC and NBC News. Let's be honest, pretty much an Obama cult with a broadcast arm. That might be the problem for Gary Pruitt, the president and CEO of the Associated Press. He doesn't have a family member on the inside, and to the best of my knowledge, the AP hasn't handed out the Kool-Aid to the whole staff. Here is what's even more frightening. And again, this is all about you progressives. You're going to love this one. The AP has reported there was no court order for such intrusion. Here's what it all comes down to. The media, you guys, have been fawning over this president for the past 5 years, and even before that. You helped him get elected twice, and now you're going to learn the hard way that you're no longer safe. That's right. All the people that pushed for gun control and Obamacare and ignored Fast and Furious and weren't interested in Benghazi and a whole bunch of other things, you've been here supporting the creep of big government. And you're starting to figure out where you are on the totem pole, which in the end, useful idiots. That's what you are. The media was all willing to let the president shred the Constitution and support him. The White House, progressives, the March of Big Government, they have all the people that support these things have told us, you know, this Bill of Rights thing, it's negotiable. But when there's a Republican president, oh, no, you can't have this negotiable thing. I mean, the left in this country will swear when there's a Republican president that parts of the First Amendment, and only the parts that they like, along with the whole of the Fourth, Fifth, Sixth, Seventh, and Eighth Amendments, are set in stone, really for members of their protected classes. You know, that's how they shape it. But when it's convenient, all of a sudden there's this thing called the separation of church and state, you know, when there's a public display of religion, unless, of course, there are progressive politicians invoking God. And when it comes to censorship, you can't yell fire at a crowded theater. Means we can censor you. We don't like what you're saying, especially on a college campus. Then there's that whole peaceable assembly thing. That goes right out the window with the Occupy protests. And all of a sudden, there's all these processes when it comes to the Tea Party. And then there's the Second Amendment, which, let's be honest, progressives have pretty much tried to erase it. And the 10th Amendment doesn't even exist in the big government progressive world. And you guys helped the progressives and the academics frame this for the general public. And you want to know why all of a sudden the freedom of the press is all of a sudden just as negotiable or likely to be thrown out the window? Well, guess who's to blame for letting the government think it could get away with whatever it wanted while the lapdog media followed along wagging its tail? You, the media. You want to know who did this? You want to know who legitimized these views? That big government was such a great thing? That's right. You guys in the media. You were so sure that you were the smartest people in the world, and if you believed it, it was what we needed. All these little people in flyover country, you know, the nobodies, the unwashed masses. I mean, without you, how would they understand anything? Here's the real takeaway in all of this. The American voter needs to really start to consider this for all the things that we as a nation believe couldn't happen here. How many of those things have actually happened? Debauched currency, overregulation of the markets, job loss. This is the march to socialism. Where do you see a socialist country, by the way, with an independent press? You don't. What some of you thought was your better sense of judgment and ignored the warnings of people like me, it's kind of a sad situation, honestly. I mean, it had to get this bad before you started believing that this president and parts of your government didn't have your best interests at heart. I understand. Progressives were very good at looking at the first black president who was charismatic with a good smile. They were able to say, you know what? Anybody who criticizes this man is coming from an origin of racism. That's not what it was. John Edwards would have been no better. And I got to be honest with you. Dictators don't come with horns and tails. They smile. Now, you AP, you progressives of media, you're about to learn a lesson.